Welcome to the TaxEduZA show. My name is Shillyboy. I'm your host. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as I mentioned, my name is Shillyboy. I'm the host of the TaxEduZA show. So most of you guys already know that I've been a content curator for some time. So now we decided with the management that we should actually put everything together and bring you everything that has to do with tax under one roof, which is the TaxEduZA show. So everything that to do with the tax is going to be here. We'll be talking tax planning, we'll be taking tax dispute resolutions, we'll be talking about tax compliance, we'll be talking about trust and the tax implications of having trust. Of course, also those who knows that I've been spending a lot of time with property investors. So we'll be talking about the taxes within the real estate space also. So those are some of the things that we'll be talking about. But let me introduce myself formally. Who am I for those who may be new? My name is Shillyboy Mothiba. I'm a chartered accountant by profession. I've got various tax qualifications. Currently enrolled for my Master of Commerce. They call it the Master of Commerce, right? Yes, Master of Commerce, specializing in tax with Witwatersrand University. Those who call it, they call it Wits University. So yes, so basically that'll be that, and I'll be a host, and we'll be talking everything that has to do with tax. Now and then we'll have guests that tells us about the history and the stories around tax matters, and we'll also be giving you guys practical examples on what goes behind some of the cases that we are handling with SARS, so that you will learn from there and you are able not to repeat some of those mistakes that people maybe actually have done, or also showing you how best way to actually reasonably and legally so save on taxes. Of course, we always have to pay tax, but equally so we need to make sure that we pay tax within the reasonable realms of the law. Okay, I don't go alone. I go with my beautiful wife behind the camera. Her name is Lusanda. I'm with her, so she can say hi to everyone. I think what we're going to do today, being the intro, or rather the first episode, we're going to briefly on a high level talk about the trust tax implications. Because why? Because it's my favorite area, or it's something that I've done for years. I serve as independent trustee for various family trusts, so I enjoy a lot that space over and above tax dispute resolution. So today, for the sake of first episode, we'll be talking about trust overall, and Lusanda should be asking those questions, those difficult questions that I'll be trying to unpack and simplify for you. And that's the thing, the purpose of the podcast, the purpose of the show is to simplify tax so that you and I can actually understand our rights, can understand our obligations when it comes to tax, and then as a result, we become responsible and active citizens. Lu, what do you have for me?
All right. Firstly, let me just greet your audience, Shillyboy. Hi, everyone. My name is Lusanda. I won't be in front of the camera.
Uh-oh.
I am going
do
to
you guys
be behind
agree?
the scenes. Yes, they do agree. I'm going to be behind the scenes. So I am happy to be here and excited about the TaxEduZA show. And yes, I think we can get started with the questions. So I have some questions I want to ask Shillyboy about tax, about a trust, and also I would also like to invite the viewers to also ask their questions in the comment section. If you have any questions about tax, about trust, anything tax related that you want to ask Shillyboy, you can go ahead and ask in the comment section, and then in the following episodes he will be unpacking those questions.
Correct. Yes. Just to agree with her, guys, before I forget, also to support what she's saying, if you've got questions or if you've got practical cases that you're dealing with, SARS, and you want some quick questions around that, you're more than welcome to actually send the questions to our email at info@taxedu.co.za, or they can WhatsApp 074-589-6439, and it will take some of those practical. It has to be practical questions, guys. Let's emphasize that. Your question that you're asking, it needs to be the case that you are faced with that has to do with tax. Why we're saying that is so that we are able to respond to a real case, so that everyone can actually become more informed rather than having a hypothetical scenario. So please, if you've got a critical case that is pending with SARS, you're more than welcome to ask. Or for that matter, you've got a trust and there's a pending issue within your trust, a family trust, property trust, you're more than welcome to send those questions to info@taxedu.co.za. It's an info@taxedu.co.za, and I think we'll have the details shared also on the video. And equally so, you can send a WhatsApp on 074-589-6439. And of course, now and then we'll be asking, or rather answering those questions in the next episode. So every episode will have a segment where we are answering those generic or practical questions that you'll be sending us, and then so that then we move to our main content of the session. Yes, Lucinda?
All right, Shillyboy. So this is the very first episode of the TaxEduZA show. How are you feeling, sir?
I'm nervous. No, I'll be honest. It's our first episode, so I hope that whoever is our first to be with us here is going to walk the journey with us. I'm nervous. I'm excited, and yeah. So I think I'm more nervous about the unknown. What this is going to come out to be. But yeah, I'm excited at the same time. So it's one of those mixed emotions, and I look forward to the consistency and support from you guys. Share our podcast and engage with it, and let's improve. Share feedbacks. We'll like the feedbacks. What we need to do, what we don't have to do, so that we can grow into we grow this platform called the TaxEduZA Show. So work with us, share with the media. Yes, tell your friends that are in radio, tell your friends that are in TV to check our podcast and engage with us. We are always available to talk everything that has to do with tax.
Before we get started with the questions about tax, I would like to know, who is Shillyboy?
Shillyboy is the tax net. Someone who loves tax and who consider himself a scholar in the world of tax. And I've been in the space for years, and as I mentioned, qualified chartered accountant, husband, and someone who's just love tax, and that's pretty much who I am.
You're not new to content creation, right? So why is it important to you?
Those who have been following my journey will know that the content creation is not something that I'm new in. I've been doing the content creation when it comes to TikTok, YouTube, and the reason why it's so important for me is because the impact it has, our content, the impact they have. People coming to us say, listen, I've done this and this because of your advice on TikTok. You spoke to me. I've formed a family trust because I've seen your content talking about the tax implications. I've approached SARS because that case that I had, that objection that I had, or that assessment that I got from SARS that I wasn't happy with, I've actually followed up with SARS and we objected to it mainly because of your advice. So it's the impact that our content, or rather my content, has on people, and I think that's what keeps me going. But equally so, the beauty about the social media and the content creation is the number of people that we're able to reach, and the impact we've got opportunity to have a positive impact on so many people, and also the fact that the message that is out there, it's actually going to be there for years and years and years, even beyond, as long as the internet is actually there. So I think that's one of the things that keeps me awake, to say, listen, you need to keep going. So it's our first episode of the TaxEduZA Show. Today we're going to briefly, on a high level, talk about the trust. We're going to, in other videos, we'll be talking about tax planning, tax dispute resolutions, wealth management, but the tax side of that. So walk on the journey with us. Let's engage, Lou. Let's talk about what you want to know about the trust, and I'll now and then chip in on some of the things that I think the audience needs to know.
Oh, so my first question is, what is a trust? Like, I need you to explain to me what a trust is.
It's a form of a contractual arrangement between a founder, right? Someone who started a trust, we call them a founder, right? And then what we call trustees. Trustees are people that a founder will bestow a fiduciary responsibility on them to say, you are responsible, you've got a fiduciary responsibility to manage these particular trust assets, right? So that's why you will notice, even why I'm saying it doesn't have a legal persona, that's why you'll even notice when you sue a trust, you'll typically sue the trustees, because they are a face and the sort of they are the representative of what we call a trust. So that's where, from legal perspective, that's why it's so important. It's only when it comes to tax where it's considered a person, where it can actually stand on its own with its own registration number and its own persona and its own tax number, and then it's responsible for paying taxes and things like that. But from legal avenue side of things, it doesn't have what you call legal person. So that is, one can say it's actually just a contractual arrangement between the founder and the trustees for a particular purpose. You're forming a trust for specific purpose, because some people form a trust for various reasons. Some people could be forming it for their children. Some people could be forming it for special purpose. I mean, I know people will form it because they want to look after animals, as an example.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I mean, there are people who will just say, listen, this is a trust, is going to preserve certain species that it's vulnerable and things like that, and they raise donation. So people, you can form, as long as it has a purpose and it has beneficiaries identified, that particular contractual arrangement can be formulated, and then you register it with the Master of the High Court, and then you can have a trust.
Okay. Tell us then what the difference is between having a trust or a normal company. Like, what are the benefits? Why would I want to have a trust instead of having a company?
Look, I mean, that's a very common question, and it's quite relevant where someone wanting to create wealth. Let me give a scenario and say, take someone that has children and they are creating wealth, and they want this wealth upon them passing, moving from one generation to the next generation. And in that way, a trust is easier to use. The nice thing with a trust is that you don't necessarily need to put all this wealth in the trust. You can have a company underneath a trust. What do I mean? You can have a situation where a trust is owning those companies, and those companies are the ones generating an income and are the ones that are being taxed, as compared to actually trading via a trust. You can do that in order to minimize your taxes. Then only when there's a need to move money from the company to the trust, you can do that. But equally so, it also depends what type of assets are sitting in a trust. I know there are people that will say, listen, I've got money that is going to be utilized to invest in dividends. The investments that they are investing in are dividends. So which means that when the dividend income comes, it's already have been taxed at 20% wherever it's coming from. So that dividend income, when it comes into the trust, is not going to be taxed again, because it's already been taxed. In that case, then can you see that it makes no difference whether you are trading via a company, whether that investment is sitting in the company or is sitting in a trust, because that particular person, that particular income, dividend income, would have already been taxed. So it makes sense, it only makes sense that is actually sitting at the trust, because the tax implications are the same, whether that investment is sitting in a company or is sitting in a trust. So that could be there. But equally so, these days what I'm seeing is people uses trust for wealth preservation rather than the tax, and that's why it's so important. Also, don't form a trust because you want to so-called save on tax. No, there are actually limited ways of saving taxes, but the primary reasons on why people want and use trust is wealth preservation. But equally so, for those assets, the benefits when it comes to tax, it could be those assets that grows in value. What do I mean? Let's say you are one of the developers or property investors, and you want to buy a property that we know that is going to grow in value, right? So it's better to retain that growth in a structure so that upon you passing, there are no what you call estate duty implications. So when someone passes on, there are what you call estate duty implications and things like that, capital gain tax implication. We will talk about that in a various in upcoming videos or episode rather. So some people do that. They preserve growth assets in a trust, which makes sense because then they save on future tax implications upon them passing. So, but I think the main thing that I've seen is also an issue of wealth preservation. Let me give a scenario that I actually encountered recently.
Yes.
Someone reached out to me and said, listen, Shillyboy, I'm a doctor, I'm a medical doctor. I'm exposed in a sense that should I make mistake in my practice, I could be sued. And therefore my wealth could actually be compromised. And I've heard that I can protect. Of course, we don't encourage that a person does such mistakes in their practice. I mean, that's not what we're looking for. So that person will typically then also have their own professional insurance, but it also helps with divorcing your personal estate to the business estate. What do I mean? The wealth that you have, you will typically have in your name. It's get divorced by virtue of a trust because no one owns a trust. A trust is an independent umbrella where someone can actually have their wealth and sit there. So those are some of the main reasons why I'm seeing lately people actually moving all their wealth is to protect them. Should you be sued, should you be sequestrated in your own regard, but equally so, we all know that financial literacy is not for everyone. Some people, their financial literacy skills is not there.
Yes.
So you may be looking at your kids and say, hey, if this one were to receive that 2 million, we'll see them regretting and coming to the tax advisor show telling us how they actually blew up.
I blew it.
So now the question could be, listen, Shillyboy, maybe let me rather have a trust and actually preserve this wealth through having a trust and have the trustees who are professionals like yourself who understand the tax implications. Others who are more investment advisors will be able to advise this person who's not so good when it comes to finances, and then as a result you guys will be able to help this person to preserve the wealth if I'm still alive or I'm not alive, but we know that this particular child will be protected. Then there are certain situations where also you may find that you've got someone who's not who has a special needs and they're not able to look after themselves. A trust can be suitable for such particular person. There are certain tax benefits also for that. So there are those scenarios and factors to consider on why you will need to have a trust. Yes.
Okay. The question is then, can I have is there a restriction to the type of assets I can have in a trust, or?
No, there are actually no restrictions. You can have any assets that you want to.
If I want to protect.
To my best knowledge, you can.
Trust.
You can move. But then it's just that some assets, and I'll give you an example. Those lands or those properties in the communal area where those lands are belonging to chiefs, it may be difficult to actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because I mean, there's no legal ownership paper.
Okay.
Exactly. So you may struggle to move such particular assets into the trust. I've had those scenarios. I mean, there's a lot of young people who are actually building amazing house in those communal area. Those are it's a bit of a challenge because there isn't really legal title ownership documentations there.
Okay. Can you tell us then, how do we set up trust? Like, if somebody is interested, in having a trust, what are the steps and how long does it take?
It's actually simpler. So typically you'll do consultations. I always say, please do consultations first.
Okay.
Do consultation, understand the text, understand how you going to use the trust, because you may and I think we need to emphasize something. Trust is not suitable to everyone.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's not. So your circumstances, we need to understand your circumstances. We need to understand why do you want to have. You need to know the tax implication that you're going to have, the nature of the income that is going to come in that trust, so that you know the tax responsibilities or rather the tax obligations that you're going to have, and also what are the obligations when it comes to SARS with regard to trust. Understand those things, and so that you understand what you're getting yourself into before you actually and going about having a trust. So it's very, very important. So then the process, then once you are done with consultation, you still say, listen, I'm going ahead, I want to have a trust. Then obviously then there'll be a drafting of the trust deed, the terms that you want to put in the trust deed, the decisions, the powers of the trustees and things like that. The beneficiaries. So it's very important to know who's going to be a beneficiary, a person who's going to have potential economic rights to benefit from the trust assets. It's very, very important to highlight such kind of scenarios. And then also, once you are happy with the formed trust, because what is this trust deed? A trust deed is sort of a constitution that the decisions are going to be made based on it. Whatever the trustees are going to do in that trust, it needs to have been documented in the trust. It's very, very, very important. Okay. Because they cannot make certain decisions that are not documented in the trust deed. Once you are happy with that, you sign that particular trust. All the trustees sign that particular trust deed, together with the supporting forms that you need to complete. Then everything that is completed and in an original form gets sent to the Master of the High Court. The Master of the High Court are responsible to the registration of the trust deed. Once the Master of the High Court is happy with the documentation, they will issue what you call letter of authority. Letter of authority is an indication that the trustees now can be able to run and manage that particular. So it gives an effect to the existence of that contractual arrangement, as I mentioned, in a form of what you call trust. And then that contractual arrangement called trust will then have a reference number that can be utilized to buy properties, can be utilized to open bank accounts and things like that. So that is where it's very, very crucial. And then once you are doing that, obviously then you still need to understand your obligation when it comes to SARS, because that's very, very important. Yes.
Imagine, yeah. Shillyboy, you have highlighted to us the advantages of having a trust, and I do actually want to ask, are there any disadvantages?
There are, and the big one is the psychological aspects of having a trust, in a sense that the letting go of a control, because when you form a trust, you are now having to actually let go. And now you are no longer the one who's in charge and having absolute control of exactly. You need to consult with the trustees on every decision because the very same law of the trust, it says the trustees must act jointly and make decisions jointly, but independently. So in terms of applying your mind as a trustee, you need to independently apply your mind, but the decisions need to be taken jointly. So you guys need to act jointly. You don't have to agree, but you need to act jointly. So I can't then, as the owner of the trust, as the founder of the trust, or even a trustee, willy-nilly just take trust assets and use as I please. That needs to be a decision of the trust. So people struggle with that, especially people that have created wealth, or the people who are creating wealth, and that the drivers of creating wealth within that trust, they struggle with having to consult. So that is, so I think that is something that you have to let go of the control. So this is the biggest thing that I've seen in practice where people actually struggle with that. And I think that, to me, that is, once you overcome that, then the other disadvantage, you can pretty much work around them. So psychological people stay. And the danger with that, where you struggle to respect that separation of control, it gets a lot of people in trouble. Why I'm saying that is, if you're still managing the trust assets as if are yours, where you are, as a trustee, you're no longer consulting with other trustees, and you are using the trust assets as if are yours. If it happens in the future that you get sued, you're not going to be protected, because one can argue and say the trust is actually what you call an alter ego. What do I mean? That means that it's actually an extension of yourself. Okay. So there's no difference between you and the trust assets. It just happens that, yes, you created a trust, but you're still acting as if those assets are yours. So you haven't let go of that control. That's where most people actually get into trouble a lot. And that can have a huge tax implications. That can have a huge implication when it comes to being sued and or being sequestrated. In some cases, even in divorce settlement, where now someone can argue, say, listen, this person has been willingly making decisions as if the trust is his or hers, and as a result, I'm arguing that this thing is just an extension of him, therefore those assets must be brought into the divorce settlement. So I think that's one area that I've seen in practice where people actually struggle with letting go.
With the trustees, can I make, if I have children, can I make my children?
Yes, you can make them trustees, provided they are of the age allowed. Okay. Yes, you can make them trustees, and some people do that, and as a result of considering succession planning. Okay. Yes, where you're grooming the next generation, you can consider that. As long as you take them for training, they understand the role of the trustee. They get trained on the governance side of things. Also, they get trained and mentored on the business affairs of the trust. If it's in a property sector, they need to understand, because you also don't want trustees who are not going to make any informed decisions at the board of the trustees. These people need to have an experience, needs to be able to make decisions in relation to that particular. If you're in mining, you want your kids to actually have an understanding of the mining industry and have a practical experience in that space. So it will be nice to actually educate and guide these individuals as they go along.
So what if then someone registers a trust, right? And then down the line, years later or even months later, they would like to remove a beneficiary of the trust.
It's not that easy. Once they assumed, they accepted their rights as beneficiaries, it's not easy. You need to consult with them. Yes, so I'm not sure if as Shillyboy and I've been made a beneficiary, I'm enjoying the benefits of being. I'm not sure how that is going to be easy. It's not that easy to actually remove someone as the beneficiary, but it can be done. Things like that can be documented in the trust deed, how to go about removing a beneficiary. I mean, there are cases where people will say if a beneficiary become insolvent, that beneficiary loses the right of benefiting from that trust. Things like that, to protect also those who can be who can fall into some unfortunate situations. You also want to protect against such scenarios, to protect the family well-being.
All right, Shillyboy, are there any final thoughts, advices you would like to share with the audience?
I think for me, we're excited. Is our first episode of the TaxEduZA show, the TaxEduZA, double T. It's very important that we get the feedbacks, and we'll be sharing more content, more tax hacks, more way of preserving wealth, and we'll be engaging what is new. We'll be sharing with you guys what is new out there when it comes to tax. We'll be sharing with you what's happening, topical cases, that are taking place, celebrities' cases. Be on a lookout for that, and interpreting those cases, the rights, and interpreting what the courts are saying with regard to those cases. So there's a lot that is coming through. We'll be sharing with you guys. So if you want to participate through questions with your practical stories, please send your questions or your cases to info@taxeduza, or you can WhatsApp 074-589-6439. And we look forward to your feedback and to engage with you. And yeah, welcome to the Tax Advisor Show. My name is Shillyboy. I'm your host, and thank you so much for watching, and all the best.